Daddy Ball podcast. Today we're going to talk about the myths that are involved with college baseball recruiting, and I'm sure they apply to other areas in sports for college recruiting, but specifically my research has been on college baseball recruiting and just some of the major myths that I've come across and some that I used to believe in my own that I find through my research has been to be false. First one is the players that believe that if I'm good enough, they will find me, meaning that if I'm such a good ball player, therefore I don't need to worry about my coaches, myself, or anybody else reaching out to college coaches because I have such talent that college coaches will hear about me, will find me, and I will get a college scholarship. That's not true. Sorry, just not true. There are probably, I would guess, there are hundreds of really good baseball players in high school that don't go on to play to college because the colleges just don't know they exist. It's not the good old days where college coaches used to go to high school games and that sort of thing, or even nowadays they don't go to tons of showcases and camps, and they're not all over the place searching for players. Even if you're really good, you still got to market yourself. I talked about it in my last podcast that basically in order to play college baseball, you have to be willing to market yourself to the colleges you believe that you can play at and that you believe you want to go to. You want to make sure you want to go there. You want to make sure that if it's a D1 school, that you're D1 material. If it's a D2 school, D3, NAIA, JUCO, that you fit in with that program. Most importantly, in my eyes, it needs to be a school that fits you. It's going to have a program that you wanted to go to college for, because eventually baseball ends. The odds of reaching the MLB, not very good. So if you're going to college believing you're going to the MLB, you still should have a backup plan. But anyway, just because you're a really good ball player doesn't mean colleges will find you. You have to be willing to market yourself. You need to be reaching out to college coaches. You need to be reaching out to the recruiting coaches that are at these universities. You need to research the universities. Do they have the programs that you have? Even D1 schools are really good. If you're a really good ball player and you think you're going to go D1, D1 might not even be good for you. You might be better off going JUCO. There's a lot of reasons for that. It could have to do with if you plan on going to the MLB draft. It could have to do with how much playtime you're going to get, because at the D1 level, especially at the really good D1 schools, you may be a really, really good pitcher or a really, really good shortstop, but as a freshman, you may not play. So to answer the myth, if I'm good enough, they will find me, just not the truth. You have to be marketing yourself. You have to have people in your corner, or you have to be doing it yourself and marketing yourself, contacting college coaches, having videos of you playing. If you're a pitcher, of you throwing a record of exactly how fast you're throwing the ball. If you're a position player, coaches want to see videos. They're probably not going to come see you unless they've seen you in a video and they could look at it and go, okay, this kid has potential. So myth number one, if I'm good enough, they will find me. That's false. You need to work. It's a lot of work involved to go play ball in college, go play college baseball. So you need to be able to market yourself. You need to be able to do it. If you believe that, unfortunately, and if you follow that thought process all the way through high school until you graduate, you might not be playing college baseball. All right, next one is my high school coach or my travel coach will find me a scholarship. Some high school coaches, some travel coaches, some are ex-ball player, MLB players, some are ex-minor league players, some are ex-college coaches, some have never played beyond high school, some have played in high school, some played in college. There's all the different levels of these coaches, but just because they have the experience doesn't mean they have the connections. And to be honest, just because they played the game, even at the MLB level, doesn't mean they know that you should or should not be in the MLB. Some of them aren't qualified to make that decision. So please don't rely on your high school or your travel coach to find you a scholarship, to find you a college baseball program to play with. Now, there are some good organizations that do have connections and that do work extremely hard to get their players into play college baseball. Find those programs if there's some near you, and that might help. But no matter what, you need to be doing exactly what I said with the first myth was you need to be marketing yourself. You have to be taking on some ownership and some responsibility, because if you want to play college baseball, you have to take ownership of it. Even if you have somebody in your corner, a coach, travel coach, an organization, some of these recruiting programs that are going to do marketing for you. Coaches are still going to want to talk to you. Coaches are still going to want to see you there. So you have to be ready to market yourself, talk about yourself, represent yourself to these college coaches, and get them to understand why you would be a good fit for their program. You need to know about their program. A college coach, just because you're a good ball player, if you know absolutely nothing about their program, you don't know who the coach is, you don't know what their records were last season, so maybe even some of the players on that team, especially at the higher levels. If you go and meet with a coach and you know nothing about their program, nothing about their school, whether they even have your academic major, these coaches might not look at you because then they're going to feel you're just disinterested. So don't rely on your high school coach. Don't rely on your travel team coach solely in order to get you to play college baseball. You have to take ownership for it. You must market yourself. You must be in contact with these colleges. Now, if you happen to have somebody in your organization or at your high school that is trying to help, make sure you let them know. Tell them, hey, I've already talked to or I've already sent information to this college and to this college. I gave them your information, because college coaches are going to want to talk to your travel coach. They may want to talk to your high school coach. So give them a heads up. Your high school coach and your travel coach, give them a heads up. Tell them, hey, I've already reached out to these people. I gave them your number. And obviously before you do that, make sure your travel coach and your high school coach actually think that they're going to give you a good recommendation, that they're going to give the college coaches a true assessment that you are able to play at that level, whether it's D1, D2, D3, or NAIA or JUCO. Just make sure, because if that's not the case, college coach is going to call your travel ball coach or talk to him at a game when he comes to see you if he gets your schedule, and that coach might not give the information to that college coach that you were hoping they would, and that, of course, will hurt your chances. So just make sure you're communicating well with college coaches, you're communicating well with your travel coach, and in some cases, your high school coaches can help you out as well. So that's the second myth. The third one is the one I find the most interesting. The organization that my son plays for has a 3.0 mandatory in order to play on the scout team. If you don't have good grades, you're going to be hard to get to play in college. A lot of the myth is good grades don't matter. If you're a good athlete, so you'll play in college. Well, that may happen in a rare instance, but reality is that doesn't usually happen. First of all, good grades is a huge plus for a college coach, because he knows he doesn't have to worry about you handling the academics when you're at the college level, because college baseball is basically a job. You have a strict program that you need to follow. It includes your academics, includes your workouts, includes your team meetings, and all that kind of stuff. You have to be able to handle that and handle the academics at the college level. So good grades, having good grades now in high school is huge positive for a college coach to see, because then he can feel confident you can handle that. Also, if you have good grades and the coach really wants you, it makes it that much easier for him to offer you scholarships. This whole thing about, my son's going to get a full ride, or, he's going to get 4 years full ride to this D1 school or this D2 school or D3 or anywhere. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen that often. Even at the D1 level, there's 11.7 scholarships available for a roster of 25. So they're looking to give out half scholarships, quarter scholarships. And when I say these, I'm talking about your athletic scholarships, the baseball scholarships. They're going to look to give you a half or a third or a half, or a quarter. They're not hoping to give you a full athletic scholarship. What they want is you to have good grades. If you have good grades, then they may not even have to use any of their athletic scholarships, and they can get you an academic scholarship at their university or their college, so that you can go to their school for close to nothing or very little out of pocket, and still have their athletic scholarships so that they can go out and recruit so your team is competitive. But if you don't have good grades, you have a very, very hard climb to get to play college baseball. College coaches, 98% of them will want you to have really, really good grades. Some colleges it's 2.5, some of it's 3.0, some of it's 3.5. Now, they may not advertise that it's 3.5, but when they're going through their list of potential players and candidates to be on their roster from specific graduating years, they're going to be, all right, where's this kid at? Oh, he's a 2.9. No, we want a 3.5, or we want a 3.4, or a 3.25. So the better you have your grades, the easier it is to you to play college baseball. Also, if you're an average ball player, you're not one of the studs. You're just an average ball player. You got a decent bat. You got really good fielding skills, or you're a pitcher that's throwing in maybe 80, throwing 81, but you got some really nasty off-speed stuff. But you have really good college grades. There are programs. I would even say at the D1 level that would, if you have good grades, they'll look at you because they know they can put you in their bullpen. They can put you on their roster, and you're going to be able to survive the whole year and not flunk out academically. So the myth that if good grades don't matter if you're really good, that's false. That's another myth that I've heard quite a few times, whether it be on message boards or Facebook or anywhere else, or even from people that I know. I don't care how good you are. If you're not doing it academically, it's going to be real hard for you to go play ball in college. The next one I want to look at is, I touched on this last time. You get an email from a college coach. You get an email from a university. You get an email from the head coach at a college, the head baseball coach, and you think because it has his name on it and it has your first name, Dear John or Dear Jeff, might even have your last name, doesn't mean you're getting recruited. Just because you receive an email from a coach, the myth is if I receive an email from a coach or a college that I'm being recruited. That's just not true. Most of the time, they're all about their camps or showcases that they may be going to, that they're associated with. Excuse me. And, just because you got the email doesn't mean you're being recruited. Even if you're on their list somewhere, they may want you to come there because they're looking at you, and I guess you're kind of quasi being recruited. But unless you're having personal contact with college coaches, specifically talking about you as a player, what you can do, what your numbers are, how fast you throw, how fast you run, what your velocity is on your fastball if you're a pitcher or you're on a curveball, unless you're having those individual conversations, or at least your travel ball coach or one of your high school coach are having with these college coaches, you're not being recruited. So just because you get an email doesn't mean you're being recruited. A lot of this is about money, especially for their camps. They send it out to 2,000 kids. They get 100 kids to show up. They charge them $200 to $800 a pop, and maybe they'll find somebody that's really good. Maybe they won't. Maybe they know who's coming and they want to see those guys live. But they're making money for their program because they have to pay for their program, so they hold these camps. So the myth is if you receive an email from a college coach or the college in general that you're being recruited, and that's just not the case. All right. The next myth that I wanted to touch on is Division I is the only and best option. Hear this all the time. D1, everybody wants to go D1 program. They want to go to LSU. They want to go to University of Florida or go to the U in Miami or FSU or plenty of other D1 programs. But that's the only option. And it's understandable. You go into any sporting goods store and you see their sweatshirts sitting on the wall or on the racks. You can get a Gator shirt or a Seminoles shirt or a Hurricane shirt for the University of Miami. I think it's the LSU Tigers. You can get a Tiger shirt. Just because they're in those stores and they have they're out there more, they're seen, they're much more popular, people think that's the only way to go. But that's not true. Even if you are a super stud and you think you're D1 material, going to Division I may not be your best option. Maybe if you're really, really good and you decide to go to college and you play D1, you're held back from going into, and you have the possibility of going to the MLB, to get drafted to go into the minor leagues. If you go D1, you're held off for 2 years. You can't go into that MLB draft until you're a junior, from what I understand, until you're a junior. So let's say you're really good and you're going to the MLB draft straight out of high school. But let's say you only get drafted in, the 15th round. And you get, a signing bonus of $30,000. And you say, that's not worth it. I'm going to go to college. Well, now you go D1. Well, once you sign up with a D1 school, you're ineligible for the MLB draft. I think it's for the first 2 years while you're a freshman and a sophomore. You cannot go into the MLB draft again until your junior year. However, if you go to a JUCO or an NAIA, you can then, in your freshman year, if you all of a sudden you just put up monster numbers and you have major league scouts talking to you and they think you're going to go higher than you went before and you want to take that opportunity, you now can, because you're not held back by the rules of Division One. So just because you're going Division One doesn't mean it's because you're a Division One player doesn't mean it's the best option for you. That's something you really need to think about. You really need to discuss that. Now, most of you who are trying to play college baseball are not thinking MLB. You're thinking, I'm going to go play in college, get a college degree out of it. And even then, just because you're able to go D1 doesn't mean you should. What if you're a good player, not a great player, but you're better than average, and you get an offer to go to a D1 school? Well, think about it. What are the odds that you're a D1 shortstop and you're getting recruited to go be a D1 shortstop? How much playtime are you going to get as a freshman or as a sophomore? They're already going to have quality players that they recruited 2 years before or a year before for those exact positions that are probably going to start over you because you're not a stud. We said you're above average, but you're not super great. So you can have the hype that, I'm a D1. I went to a D1 school. That's great. But if you really want to play, maybe D1's not best for you. I mean, last year's World Series in the playoffs, I think it was like 35, 36 players. They all went to JUCOs first. A lot of them went JUCO for 2 years, and then they went to D1 schools after that. You can go to, a lot of times you can do that. You can go from a lower level school, lower division school, and then go in your junior and senior year to a D1 school and start. It's all about playtime. You don't get better unless you're playing. So just because you're a D1 talent doesn't mean you necessarily need to go D1. You really need to consider, and if you're being recruited by a D1 school, you need to try to have those conversations with those coaches about, who's ahead of you. Who's the shortstop or the first baseman or the center fielder ahead of you? What's your pitching staff look like now? I mean, what's the reality of me getting a start or even any playing time, or you're going to be limited? Are you going to have limited playing time in your freshman and sophomore year? Sure, you'll practice with the team, but if you're not playing, is that what you're willing to do for your first 2 years of college? And also there's the myth too about Division II and Division III schools, because they're lower divisions, that they're not as good academically or even athletically competitive compared to D1 schools, but that's just not true. I live in Florida. D2 schools here in Florida are easily competitive with D1 schools everywhere else in the country. There's a lot of D2 schools here in Florida that could compete at the D1 level. Remember, the Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, and JUCO, the division they're in is all based on the size of the school, the number of students that go to that school. So you have to have a certain number of students in order to compete at different levels. So there are a lot of quality D2 and D3 schools that have really good academics and that can have really good athletic competitive baseball programs. There are D1 schools that they're D1 because they're big schools. They have lots of students. They're known schools, but maybe their baseball program isn't that competitive. It does happen. So again, that's all part of the research that you have to do when it comes down to researching where you want to go, what division fits best for you. Is it D1? Is it D2? Is it D3? Is it NAIA? Or is even a JUCO good for you? Go 2 years to a junior college, get your associates or even not, and then transfer into a D1 or a D2 school from there. Because there's a lot of kids that are going to go and maybe they're not physically ready when they graduate high school to play D1 baseball. But by the time they're done with their 2 years at a JUCO or an NAIA school, they've physically gotten stronger, they've gotten bigger, they've gotten better. Because in a JUCO, you play a lot more baseball games than you play at the other levels. So you have the ability to play and improve, and maybe by the time you're going into your junior year, you now have more ability, and you can now go play at a higher level D1 or D2 school. Just something to think about. Don't be stuck on going to a D1 school because you can go buy their sweatshirt at basically any sporting goods store, especially if you live near those D1 schools. They're great to have, and it's always great for your parents and for your family, and grandma and grandpa and brother and sister. Yeah, my son, my brother, my son, my grandson, he goes to such and such school. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's all great, but that doesn't mean it's the best situation for you. It's just something to think about. And the next myth is college coaches only recruit top players. That's not true. especially when you get to D2, D3, NAI, and JUCO. First of all these D1 staffs are not rosters are not full with all the top players. There's position players. There's guys that can do the job they need to get done so they can win. So coaches don't only recruit top players. If you're a halfway decent baseball player, you love the game, you have a good work ethic, you're good academically, you could play college baseball if you do everything you need to do with marketing yourself to the proper colleges, doing the proper things. You do have a really good shot at playing college baseball. A lot of people don't know what it takes to play college baseball, and I don't mean from the baseball side of it, I mean from the marketing side of it. They don't know who they need to talk to. They believe a lot of these myths that we're going over here today, and because of that, they don't play college baseball. It's as simple as that. I'm going to keep saying it, you need to market yourself. You need to have a website, you need to have videos, you need to know your stats, you need to know your SATs, your ACTs, you need to have, contact information for any coaches that you have, high school, travel ball, that kind of thing, in order to go. Then the next myth is all colleges offer athletic scholarships. That's not true either. This goes back to what we talked about before about having good grades. If you go to a D3 baseball school, they do not offer athletic scholarships. You cannot get a baseball scholarship to play at a D3 school. But if you have good academics and you are a good ball player, college coaches can help you get academic money and offer you a spot on their roster. This is where your college grades, your high school grades come into play. If you want to play college baseball, the better your grades are, the better your opportunity to go play college baseball. Not all, and even at as I said before, when I talked about, I forget which one it was, but D1 schools only have 11.7 scholarships. They have a minimum of 24, 25-man roster, sometimes more. So how are they going to give everybody an athletic scholarship if they only have 11.7? And that's only the D1 schools that are fully funded. There are some D1 schools that their baseball program might not be fully funded, so they don't have the full 11.17 scholarships. 11.7 scholarships. Even if they do, there's no way they can offer everybody an athletic scholarship. At 11.7, they're leaving 12, 13 guys without money. That's why they would much prefer, if you have good academics, they can offer you a quarter, a half, or maybe no athletic scholarship, but because of your grades, they can offer you a spot on the team and give you an academic scholarship. So again, make sure your grades are there. Just because you're a good ball player doesn't matter if you are a bad student. So to keep that in mind. And the last one that we're going to talk about, and I touched on this in the previous podcast, was your child will be discovered at showcases and camps and clinics. That's all I have to do. Sorry. If you're just spending the money to go to these showcases and camps and clinics, and you are having no conversations with college coaches prior to going to these things, and you think you are going to be discovered by a college coach, the likelihood of that happening is slim and none. You need to be in contact with college coaches. If you know you're going to a specific camp and you want to go to a specific school and that school's coach is supposed to be there, contact that coach. Coach, I'm interested in joining your program to play baseball for your school. Here's a link to my website. It shows you my videos. I'm a third baseman, 2021 graduate year. I'd love the opportunity to meet with you at the camp. I'm signed up to go. I'd love for you to come take a look at me and see if you believe I'm a fit for your program. They may respond, they may not, but at least now you've made an effort to contact that coach. Your best camps are the ones where there's 2 or 3 colleges that you're interested in going to. Then you contact all those coaches. Send them your information. Send them your travel ball and high school coach contact information. The more information they have, the more likely they are to add you to some sort of a list somewhere, so when they go to that camp that they know you're going to be at, and you know they're going to be at, they can say, all right, let's go take a look at this kid. The other thing is you also have an opening now. You see that coach there? Hey, coach, I'm so-and-so. I sent you an email a couple months back about, how I'm interested in coming to your program. I know you guys went 21-3 last season or whatever it is. Talk about their school. Let them know you're interested. If you do all that, you have a much better chance of playing college baseball. But if you're just going to sit back and pay all this money to go to these showcases and camps and clinics and do none of the legwork beforehand, Yeah, work. You have to work. Just like you got to work at your craft of baseball, you got to work at getting to play college baseball. If you're not going to do the work, you will not play college baseball unless you're one of the very, very few lucky ones that gets discovered. So those are just some of the myths that I've come across over the last few years and doing my research, trying to get things ready for my son and what we can expect. So I hope that helps out again, helps out somebody out there. Maybe something I said was something you believed, and then now you know that that's not the case. And if you're still not sure and you think I'm wrong, go look it up. Go find out. Because if you think, was anything of what I said is incorrect, and your son or you directly, if you're the ball player, if you believe that that doesn't apply to you, I feel bad for you because this is the reality of being recruited to play college baseball. You need to know what it takes to get recruited at college baseball. That's why these scouting services exist, because a lot of people don't know what to do. So they get you to lay out $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and then they do some of the work for you. But the reality is, even when what they do, you still got to do the work. You still got to talk to the coaches. You still got to know the information. These recruiting services, their best thing that they can do for you is they can help get in contact with coaches. But this is all stuff you can do yourself. Some people don't have the money to pay for these recruiting services, so they have to do it themselves. And if you want to play college baseball, money shouldn't be an issue. Just take the initiative, do the work, do what's necessary. Market yourself to these colleges. Market yourself in a smart way. That's it. I just wanted to go over the myths that some of the myths that I've come across about getting recruited to play college baseball. This is the Daddy Ball Podcast. I hope that helps somebody out there, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.